Fans, welcome to this episode of the Bob and Ron Show. Today is Tuesday, November 9th, 2010. I'm Bob.
And I'm Ned.
Ned is once again filling in for Bob here on the show after a heartbreaking weekend for us Detroit Lions fans. Ned, anything, just a real quick word to start us off here.
It was a hard loss for us this week. The Lions went down 23-20 to the New York Jets in overtime this past week, and it was really rough. I mean, I'd say one of the toughest losses for the Lions this year.
I agree. There's definitely, there's that loss in Chicago in week one. There's been a lot of heartbreak.
Awful.
Us Lions fans are just kind of getting used to being heartbroken perpetually. But, yeah. Well, anyway, fans, we have a lot of issues going on with this Lions team. So right now, what we're going to do this week, the Wings, they had a decent week this week. Picked up a couple wins. Tigers, they did sign Johnny Peralta this week. Some talk of, continuing the search in the free agent market. But they're really, Michigan State.
They won.
Big win versus Minnesota. And we all know about the shootout between Michigan and Illinois.
Yes.
But there's really not a whole lot to go over in these games. There's not a lot of huge talk. There's not a lot of excitement.
Well, as expected, MSU, handled Minnesota as everybody thought they would. Coming off a tough loss to Iowa, they performed really well against Minnesota.
And they really needed to.
They got it done. And Bull hopes are still alive. Actually, it's not just Bull hopes, but Rose Bowl hopes. As you can see, if you actually watch the game, there was a little segment based on the whole fact that Michigan State is rallying around the fact that they can still make the Rose Bowl. And that's what they're shooting for.
Very good point, Ned. Yeah, but I mean, as we said, there isn't really a whole lot to talk about. So,
no.
Right now, I'm just going to say this right now, flat out. We're going to dedicate this entire show to the Detroit Lions.
Yes.
Stafford got down; he's hurt. Hanson's hurt. There's going to be a few roster moves need to be made. There needs to be some switching, some movement. There's been a few moves already this week. Who's going to start on Sunday versus the Bills in a must-win game on the road? I mean, there's a lot to talk about. So we're going to get right into it. We're going to talk about all Lions today. And fans, we know you love our Lions. So Ned, let's just start it out. What happened this weekend?
I mean, initially when the first, 3.5 quarters of the game up until 5 minutes left in the game, Lions were handling the Jets.
Yeah.
I know you didn't get a chance to watch it, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But you were listening to it on radio, dedicated.
Yeah, I mean, at work you do what you can, and
Yes.
I did what I could.
Did a good job. And, you weren't able to see it, but obviously you know that the Lions were dominating for the first 3.5 quarters, 20-10 lead, going with 5 minutes left. And what honestly I feel happened when Stafford went down, it just felt like the whole team went down with him. When he initially fell on his shoulder, he got up holding his arm. You could just feel the energy and all the momentum gets sucked out of the entire team, not just the team, but the audience as well, like the fans, that you could feel it.
Yeah, Matt, I agree with you. I mean, from what I gathered, I did watch the replay. I did see, what ensued after the Matthew Stafford injury. But, Stafford, to me, represents a lot more than just a starting quarterback for this club. I mean,
Absolutely.
He's electrifying. He's a great quarterback for being as young as he is. And he just shows a lot of poise in there. And, he represents, it being the first-round pick for this team last year, I think he represents hope. He represents a future. He represents a glimpse of what could be for this franchise. And a lot of us really bank on that. And to see him come back from the Week 1 injury, huge win over Washington in the previous week, and then for him to go right back down with another injury. I mean, it's like getting up after you fall, and then some kid just punches you right in the windpipe, and you get your wind knocked out of you, and it hurts, and you don't want to get back up because you're just like, dude, I just got down, But I mean, is this gonna be a trend for his career? Is he gonna be another one of those first-round busts, another injury-plagued career, another promising future thrown away in the garbage and swept away by the winds of change here in Detroit.
And this is the hot topic right now around like the local Detroit area and all of Michigan. A lot of people,
And rightfully so.
oh, and there's people on the side of, is Stafford actually durable enough to handle the NFL like hard hitting career?
Because you look at that hit. That was a
No,
routine
routine.
NFL hit. That
Absolutely.
wasn't some huge, meteorite coming out of the atmosphere and blasting them upside the head. You got to take that hit.
You do, but like once I initially said this from the beginning of the season, when Bradford, if you remember this, when he went down to Oklahoma with that hit,
Yeah.
same type of hit that said level 3 separation. Sorry, level 3, right?
Yeah, grade 3.
Grade 3 separation of his shoulder. Same thing that happened to Sam Bradford. He immediately got surgery after the injury initially happened. He came back, and you can see how he's doing. He lands on his shoulder after hit. We see plenty of hits when he played against Detroit. He took many.
Okay,
It's a
yeah.
need.
And there were a lot of questions. Was Sam Bradford going to come back and be that top tier quarterback after that? Because he had a Heisman potential season before that.
Oh,
and then he did.
No, did he win the Heisman that year?
We'll get back to you on that.
Sorry.
He may have.
Sorry, I apologize.
But
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. He had great numbers. If he would have came out that year, there was argument that he could have had he would have been the first overall pick instead of Stafford that year.
Yeah.
Because he had such a great year.
But bottom line is they're kind of faced with a decision.
Yes.
You sit him out the rest of the year. Get him that surgery on that shoulder.
And this is what we talked about earlier. We both feel like they should. Even if he can come back in week 15. I mean, what's going to happen by then? I mean, there's nothing you could do. Why risk having him come back in week 15 when the season's practically done, and just to re-injure it again and possibly have a career-ending shoulder injury, which I don't believe is a good reason at all to put in like your franchise guy back in.
Bottom line, this team has about 72 million reasons.
Oh,
why?
Guaranteed.
Why to keep him out? And really, I am such a fan of Matthew Stafford. I know he can succeed at this level, and I want him to succeed at this level. And therefore, I say, as much as I want to see him, I say bench him the rest of the year.
Absolutely.
But then you got Sean Hill out with a broken arm, and you have an unproven NFL quarterback in Drew Stanton, who is lined up to start this week at a winless Buffalo team, which is a game you really have to win if you're Detroit,
Absolutely.
Especially after that tough loss with New York. So, I mean, where do you really go from here? Do you go out and sign a quarterback? Do you stay with Stanton, try to get him some reps with the first team in practice this week, get him acclimated to this offense, and really see if he can get going? Or, or do you see if Sean Hill can step in? I mean, they have a few different avenues they can go.
And this is a tough call for me, and I hate admitting this, but when you're 2-6, you can pretty much say that the season's almost over. I mean, if we could have won that game against the New York Jets, I mean, a bunch of things were possible. We have the Buffalo Bills on the road. We have the Dallas Cowboys on the road. The Miami Dolphins and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Those are our only away games, all winnable games. All the rest of our games, which we have played at home extremely well. So with Matthew Stafford out, though, I don't really know if those winnable games are winnable anymore.
Yeah.
So I think we should hold him out for the rest of the year, bank on Stanton to play a few games until Sean Hill can take the reins again, and then maybe we can get a couple more wins. But until then, I really think we should stick with Drew Stanton, unless a substantial free agent pickup can come up, which I don't really know is going to happen. I mean,
Jamarcus Russell.
Jamarcus Russell, which could be a possibility, which could be a very good possibility for the team. I mean, you got Calvin Johnson on one side, and you got Nate Burleson. Nate Burleson on the other. And both of them are deep threat targets. And we all know Jamarcus Russell has one hell of an arm.
That's about
much
all he
like
has.
Stafford.
That's about all he has. He has a shit attitude and he has no accuracy. But hey, chuck it downfield, you never know what could happen with this offense.
Yeah, I'm not saying it would be a good signing, but I mean it'd be maybe just something to look at. I mean, what's the worst that can happen? Sign him to a minimum deal, get him in here, and if he can get it done, great.
Yeah, I mean, Ned, you saw that mugshot just as well as I did when he got indicted a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
Guy looks like hell, I'm not going to lie.
He looks good.
Yeah, I mean, he fit in right with Kwame in this Detroit atmosphere.
Kwame. Cheers.
Moving on. You have this Lions defense, who's definitely they definitely have made strides.
Yeah, absolutely.
And me personally, I know just as well as you were about an hour ago, we saw the news that Jonathan Wade has been released from the roster.
Thank God.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm not a big fan of Wade. Absolutely.
No. And with Chris Houston and Alphonso Smith both playing at, I'm going to say Pro Bowl levels.
Oh.
Two Lions corners who were picked up in the offseason after this was an extreme weak point for this club, playing at Pro Bowl, and for what they traded away, unbelievable signings.
And we all know about Alphonso Smith having his 5 picks. I mean, everybody's heard about that. He's second in the NFL in statistics with interceptions. Second, only behind D'Angelo Hall, who got lucky and had 4 against the Chicago Bears. So if he didn't have that type of game, we're talking Alphonso Smith leading the entire league with interceptions. And we gave up, who did we give up? A backup tight end. He backed up behind Will Heller, behind Pettigrew, behind Scheffler. And we gave up a backup tight end for a potential Pro Bowl corner. And that's excellent. And you know the stats on Chris Houston. What were you telling me earlier about his stats?
I mean, as far as I heard on the radio earlier today, Chris Houston is in the top 5 of yards given up per target to who he's covering. And you got to look at that's a huge number for this Lions team. And, I mean, I'm loving it. And I also love the fact that Dalmas is playing well. He had a forced fumble in this past week's game. And I really love, he's still young, he's still a little bit raw, but bringing Amari Spiavi in to play in the other safety spot above one of our least favorite Lions players, C.C. Brown.
C.C. Brown. And I think that was one of the biggest injuries of the year, which was actually good for our team, was, C.C. Brown going down with that injury. Bringing Amari Spiavi in. Spiavi has gotten it done pretty well. I mean, he had a couple of blown coverage plays in last week's Jets game.
But that's going to happen.
Overall, he's a first-year player in a supposed to be weak secondary, which has totally come up big this year. Absolutely.
Another thing that's come up big, obviously, as we've talked about repeatedly, is the defensive line.
Yes.
I mean, it has to be, a growing concern for all teams that are on the Lions schedule. You have Vanderbosch, Sue, Corey Williams, who's unbelievable.
Cliff Averill, the X factor of the defense.
Cliff Averill's been great. Great pass rusher, a lot of speed on the corner, which we love. But
forced fumble last week against the Jets.
And
sack on Sanchez.
The thing with me is, it's even with Pro Bowlers like Julian Peterson, you got these corners who are playing at Pro Bowl level. You got a great emerging star in Louis Delmas. But the thing is that they really aren't playing smart football, and you keep seeing these dumb penalties coming up, and that's a repeated issue for this team.
And
dumb penalties. And one more thing, hear me out.
Sorry. Continue.
Is these open field tackles?
Oh, it's awful.
In that game-winning drive by the New York Jets, you saw 3-4 missed open field tackles. And if you're playing professional football at this level, you got to be able to tackle guys. You can't keep missing tackles and giving them the second chance, the third chance at gaining the additional yardage on each play. You're not going to be a successful team no matter how much talent you have on the defense. And, I mean, how do you get back to doing these fundamentals, Ned?
I mean, it's a little hard to explain, but I really feel like you're absolutely right in that category. The Lions really need to perfect on that. And a lot of those issues came from C.C. Brown. I'm not putting all the focus on him saying it was all his fault, but there's Sean McCoy, Adrian Peterson. All these guys had breakout runs against this Detroit defense, and they broke, 5 or 6 tackles on their way to the end zone, and almost every single one of them, C.C. Brown was accountable for one of them. I mean, obviously it's not his fault, but it happened against the Jets, which you explained. And then the dumb penalties earlier. That key drive where they had the game-tying field goal, Julian Peterson hit a guy out of bounds, a 15-yard penalty.
Yeah, and
that's huge. 15 yards closer to the field goal.
Excuse me, I don't need to offend anybody out there, but that is just retarded. Because you can't, when you're a team that's 2-6, struggling to get these wins, struggling to come up, repeatedly at the end of the games, being close, being in that winnable distance, you can't help out the other team. No. They had this game won versus the Jets, and they literally, threw it down the drain. I mean, they disappointed us now.
Oh, it's true. And to me, I can't help but feel that it all goes back to what happened with Stafford. I could really honestly feel like the whole team was deflated once this happened.
I mean, we're running out of time real quick on the first half of our show. We're going to wrap this up. We're going to come back for the second half of the show. We'll talk more about the Stafford injury, and we'll talk more about this extreme letdown and this extreme depression setting in for both of these commentators in the weeks ahead. and we'll see you fans in a few minutes.